Welcome to Charts Today. It's Friday, the 20th of December, and I'm back in Sydney. And in the last couple of days, on Wednesday especially, we saw big falls in the US stock market and driven by comments by the Fed. But the interesting thing is, what is the price action telling us? What are the charts saying, and what are the targets telling us? And so here we see the S&P 500 index, that big downside candle on Wednesday. It's Friday here in Sydney, not yet open in the US. And we're seeing here this dramatic target that we were really following quite nicely. And now we've just really fallen away with that big move. And that's on the daily chart, of course. If we go through to the 60-minute chart, we start to see some price action on the S&P 500 index, where we do have this downside target projecting quite a bit of downside down into the sort of 5,500 area. We did have a previous downside target given just last week, and that was projecting when we were at 6,030 a target to 5,906. Well, that's what we saw happen on Wednesday. So that target last week was given the middle of this week, and we now have a new downside target. It is a lone target, and I'd want to certainly look around for other signals that target might be met. And of course, the place that you automatically go to is the Nasdaq, because that's such a large contingent of US stocks. This is the Nasdaq 100. Here we see the train tracks. This target was on its way to being met, and when we had the big pull away, notice that the candle, this was the downside candle. We opened a little bit higher, and then we closed a little bit lower again yesterday than the low on Wednesday. So this is not yet a bounce. And quite interestingly, we're just seeing the targets there. And if you go to the 60-minute chart, again, we did have a downside target that was given early this week, and that was met on the 60-minute chart quite quickly. Interestingly, what we need for a setup is we need a pullback and then an activation of the target. So we don't really have a big downside target yet on the Nasdaq, either on the daily or on the 60-minute. So it's premature to say that the market's falling away. We want to see a reactive move, really, and then a move lower. That would be the sign technically. Now, looking at some of the big constituents, we start with Apple, really not showing dramatic moves on Wednesday, and it is not running quite to target. Here we see we're just a little bit below the trajectory. But that target given back in July, August, and activated here, we see then that we activated that in August, September, and we're running towards that target. If we look at NVIDIA, of course, NVIDIA really is the proxy for risk at the moment. Upside thrust there in July and August, giving us train tracks, upside targets, but really, over the last several weeks, NVIDIA, this is the daily chart, NVIDIA has been falling away. So that has been a bit of a concern for the market. And if we look at the 60-minute chart, we see here that we fall to the targets. We had targets given back in November, downside targets given, downside targets met, a little upside target that was given, another big downside target that was given and met, given at the red dot and met. And then the same here, these downside targets being met. So that is quite bearish confirmation that we are seeing downside targets on NVIDIA being met. We do have a little upside target now, a reactive move after Wednesday's fall away. But the interesting thing is that we do have targets in either direction, and these orange targets will turn green to the upside or red to the downside when they are activated. And these are the key levels on NVIDIA. So the key thing is there is uncertainty about NVIDIA, and that is quite interesting looking at that chart. If we go to the next large cap stock in the Nasdaq 100, we look at Microsoft, and here we see Microsoft gave this target in October, activated in November, and pretty much met. So we had a good run up towards the target, and then we do have big downside days on Microsoft, unwinding almost half of that move in a day or two. And again, we've got this this candle where we close just slightly below. So that's quite key. And again, if we go to the 60-minute chart, we see the upside targets that were given late November. They were given. All these green dots are where the targets are given. They're given and met. And now we've made a lower high, so that's significant, a lower high and now a lower low. and the downside target that was given earlier in the week met yesterday. So really quite key. It was actually met on Wednesday. So and it happened faster than the target projection. So the key thing is this is quite a bearish pattern, but we're waiting for a pullback and then another thrust to produce a new target. So it's not clear yet that we've got targets to the downside there on Microsoft. So uh, it has reacted quite strongly in that market, as has Amazon. If we look at Amazon, we see here this candle, yesterday's candle versus Wednesday's, we're not quite lower. We are still above our average. We were going quite well to target on the daily chart, but again, if we go to the 60-minute chart, quite interestingly, this target we pulled away from. We finally got there, and this downside target also given. So the interesting thing is that a lot of this uncertainty in the market is a lot of it is Nvidia. If we look at the Nasdaq 100, we're waiting for a setup to really generate another downside target. The S&P does have this downside target, so the broader market is what's really giving this downside. So we've got to watch this. Watch out for new lows. We normally get a rally at Christmas time, so it would be unusual to see these downside moves in the market being met over the Christmas period. But let's just keep an eye on those short 60-minute targets. They're going to keep coming on the charts. They're the ones to watch for the short term. Remember, if you want these targets, just go to APPS LIN Go on your system and have a go and using them yourself. They're really great, and I'm really grateful to all the people who've been giving me great feedback who started using them on Bloomberg. Really, really great to hear. So next week is Christmas. Hope you have a great Christmas season, and we'll see you soon. Until then, happy charting. Bye for now.